Hello and welcome to a beautiful painting session. Today I want to talk a bit about the fact that most educational content on YouTube and even paid educational content on other platforms or courses or whatever, they are very, very bad. It's mainly because they fail to do one thing, which is have a project. They only teach you abstracted shit. I said a bad word, but I meant it. They do not focus on a project. They do not have something to be applied. They do not teach you at different levels of abstraction, let's say. So they have this big problem. I find it to be quite a big problem to teach someone and assume that they already have all the baggage of knowledge that you have. So that's a bad way to teach. And that's one of the reasons why most educational content is bad. The second one is the fact that it is not the best educational content that gets to the top. It is, in fact, just the most entertaining that gets to the top. So that's one another reason why educational content kind of is bad, because the most successful people in the space are the best marketers, not the best course creators. So because they are incentivized not to have the best course, but to sell the most courses. So that's why they have such a, what's it called? They don't have the best courses, because to make the best course, you inherently don't, you sacrifice the marketing potential of that course because it's not entertaining enough, because it's not catchy. And yeah, as a course creator, I've been a course creator for the last 5 years. I've seen that firsthand, that courses are not really, the best courses are not really the ones that people watch. It is the most marketed, the most catchy courses that are watched, not the ones that are the most helpful. So they don't optimize for helpfulness, they optimize for interest. I think it's an economic, I think Benjamin Franklin said, don't quote me on that, but I think he said that you cannot, when trying to convince someone, don't appeal to reason, but to interest. So it is not the facts that sell courses or make a course successful, or the even the quality of the course. Sometimes about, it's fun to see that 90% of people, 80 to 90% of people don't even open the course. So what are they buying there if they're not even opening it? And the answer is quite obvious and simple. They are actually buying the idea that they're gonna do something in the future. Like, it would be fun to just have a course that the only way that you get access to it and is if you give proof that you've, well, that's cool basically. So you pass the grade if you actually do the course. That's the incentive over there. That's why classical education has an upper hand on the other one, even though it's a less fun adventure, let's say, not adventure, but whatever, less fun experience for the person, it is quite the learning. You do learn quite a bit more, and it's fun to see that school even teaches you things that you don't want to learn. So that's because no matter what interests you have, there are going to be parts of the things that you want to learn that you are not going to enjoy. So it is difficult to balance that out. So it is quite a bit of I don't need red. I already have brown. So I need white. So if you think that you are going to enjoy every second of an educational content or course, and you have that expectation, and a lot of people have it, but not consciously, they have it unconsciously. And what I mean by that is that they abandon a course because it's a bit boring. And not all things need to be fun. I think it's much more important to have a course that's useful rather than fun, if the goal is to have a result. But there is a bit of a balancing act to it, because you cannot really put all the blame onto the student for being not interested in courses that are very helpful but not so entertaining. You have to put it on the teacher to build the most useful course while at the same time balancing out the engagement part of the course. So make it as fun as possible and as engaging as possible to really get the students, to give them the opportunity to have to give their time away to learn about that thing. But most course creators don't really care about that, because all they care is if some of them are actually happy for the fact that 90% of people don't really open the course, or they open it and they watch it for 5 minutes and then that's all, instead of watching all the 2 or 3 hours or whatever, how many hours it has. And they are happy because they understand that they don't have to really put a lot of effort into the course. So the thing that it's at the beginning, when you start making courses, you struggle way too much to make the greatest course you can make, and then you find out that most people don't even open it. So of course you're going to be like, oh, why did I spend so much time? Because it's another economic law, the law of self-interest. If you realize that your interest is to make as much money as possible from making a course, well, you don't even need to realize that, because on basically it's a bit unconscious that you are going to do that anyway. It's through effort that you get a better course and a better experience for the student. You are pushed to do the least amount of effort as a course creator, because people don't really consume the content. They buy it and they don't consume it. So they don't learn anything. And most courses have about a 3% chargeback anyway. So we can imagine that if we imagine that 100 people have bought that course, then 3% is not a lot, but if you look at the opening rate, which is 90%, well, opening rate is 10%, well, finished rate, finishing the course, not opening rate. Opening rate is bigger, but out of the 90% of the people who finish, only 10% give the money back. It's I'm not saying that those people who don't watch don't do a refund, but they do sometimes because they have buyer's remorse. But and sometimes they find out that the course is not for them. But it's interesting to see that if you continue to down that path, you slowly understand that making courses is not about giving a great experience. It's more, and a result, it's more about feelings. And even if the client, the course, the student doesn't get the best result in your course, just because you've been a nice person might make them not give you a refund, which is bad. I think that is bad. I much prefer to learn a lot and not be treated like not like I don't appreciate people who treat you well just to get a result off of you. It's deceptive, let's say. Yeah. So in case you're wondering, I'm making a sketch. This is a sketch, even though it looks like a, well, not right now, but it looks like I'm doing a full painting. It is not that, it is a sketch. I'm not really paying that much attention to what I'm doing, and just figuring things out and solving problems, because that's exactly what you need to teach someone. If you teach a course, you need to teach them. If you want the best quality course, you don't teach them how to do it's you go beyond the project. You have to start with the project, but you have to go a bit further than that and teach them how to solve their own problems when they arise in that topic. So you empower them to, and that's another problem over here, because if you empower someone to teach themselves and learn and understand how to solve their own problems, then they're not going to buy your next course. So you see the conundrum over here. It's you want repeat customers that are satisfied enough to just buy your second course. So that's why probably I'm not that's probably why I'm not making enough money. It's because I teach people way too much, and I give them results instead of entertainment. And it's fun to see, and it's also fun as a teacher to see where people are struggling and where they are not getting the result that you were intending to give. What And it's obvious, especially when it comes to painting. It's obvious where they kind of fail in understanding what you wanted to convey to them. So it is a interesting experience to really let people actually take your course and do the project and see what they are struggling with, because each person understands things differently, and you can improve your way of teaching so that it accommodates, it is accessible even for those people who have a different way of understanding things. So, yeah, it's interesting to think about these concepts. Not really paying attention to either situation, not paying attention to the painting part, and not paying attention to the talking part. So, not that it's not that entertaining, but I think the ideas are there. So if you see someone, okay, let's talk a bit about the abstraction levels in educational content. Like if you see someone talking too much about concepts, understand that that will not be a very good learning opportunity, because you can search on the internet for the pyramid of learning, and you will very easily understand the percentages of how knowledge is transferred and how you the success rate of that particular way of teaching. And just seeing a talking head video is really not, it's one of the lowest ways actually to teach someone, because it's just information, presentation of information. And then you have some visuals which kind of get you better results. Then you have, I think the second is discussion. And then you have a project and first-hand experience. You get them the first-hand experience. And then the second one, I think, the other one is you also have them teach someone else. So there's a lot of ways to improve. I'm sure I butchered that pyramid, but it's fine. It's not that important for this video. So it is quite an interesting thing to think about. If you see someone who's not focusing on getting you a specific result, and you might think, oh, but he's teaching me general principles. Yeah, general principles can be explained in 5 minutes. Like, you have paint, you have surface, you have brush, and then you have colors and you have textures, these are the general principles of paintings, but the specifics are what make the great result. So, and whenever you are doing specificity, it's harder to sell a course, because the more generic a course is, the broader the appeal that it will have. So and the harder it is to make, because you are generally, it's very hard to go into so much detail and to explain everything. It takes a great teacher to teach at different levels of understanding. So if I were to teach you about color, for instance, I would tell you that color is not that difficult. It is only difficult if you see beyond three colors, as in, if you think of colors as being more than three colors, well, five. But if you think of them as being just five colors, which is yellow, blue, red, brown, and white, it starts to become a lot more easy to understand what how differently you can use colors. Brown is there just to have a bit of darkness. Brown is basically a darker orange. So you use it to darken colors, and it gives a bit of a more hot, warm feeling to the colors. depending on what you mix with. If you mix it with blue, it will tend to be a bit more black. But see how specific that is. So it doesn't help you, but if I were to simplify the concept a bit more, it's ask yourself questions. First question is, what color should I use? And you start to see, oh, I want a green. Okay. You put a green down, and then you ask yourself, is that green good? I like it. Do I like it? And the answer you give today and the answer you will give in 2 years, this is jumping from level 1 to level 10 in explanation, because in 2 years you're probably going to be 10 times better if you do the thing, if you start painting and continue on the process. So it's in 2 years the answer will be different if that color is right, or if that color is the right color. But in the moment you should still ask the question and decide for yourself if the color is good. If it's not good, like for instance here, what was happening here? The color was too diluted and it had too much brown. So the answer is the opposite. Like whenever you pose a question, usually in 60%, or I don't know, I'm making a number up as I go. But in a lot of times, the answer is just the opposite. Like for color, it's almost always the opposite. Like I need it to be a bit more opaque because it was too transparent. And if it was too brown, brown being orange, the opposite would be a bit more green because I wanted a green color. So that's how you can think about it in very simple terms. And then you look at it and you add the color, make better choices, and slowly inch your way towards a successful painting. And then you go like, okay, is it dark enough? Is it light enough? And then to go from first level to second level is, okay, what color and what do I do afterwards? You anticipate what you will be doing next. So I know that I want a huge contrast on the edges of the tree because this is going to be a backlit tree. So I want a dark color. So I need to add brown and continue with the colors. I don't want a perfectly opaque color because, first of all, I don't want to use a lot of color, even though I put quite a bit over here. But second of all, I want texture. So that's another thing to think about while you are painting. You need to think about textures, about that's just talking about color, and you get more and more specific. But the idea is the question, is this the right color that I should be putting down? And if you don't have the answer, test it out. You test and you see if it's the right color. And then you ask yourself, what is it missing? Or what can I add? Or what can I subtract? Or what's the problem? And then you find out the reason why that's not the correct or the right color. And you do adjustments. You slowly adjust. Like I read somewhere that an autopilot on the because planes are basically piloted automatically, like so much. Like I think it's something like 90% of the time they are on autopilot. The pilot is there just in case something bad happens. And or to take some decisions but it's not like driving a car. It's like it's more cruise control, like on the highway when the car is keeping the lane and you just have to be careful not to, so that the car doesn't do anything stupid. So that's exactly how it is. But funny thing is that they kind of have measurements for this, and I read somewhere that the autopilot of a plane is like 90% of the time it's wrong, but it's doing course correction in those 90. So it's in course correction 90% of the time. That's what I want to emphasize. So it's wrong about 90% of the time, but because it has the right questions or the right logic built in, it can go to the destination even if it's off course, not wrong, but off course in 90% of the time, because it's measuring to such a degree that it knows how to do those adjustments. So it's easy to course correct for them. I don't know. I'm not really that familiar with the subjects, but I use everything that I heard and everything that I understood in the past to better explain concepts and teach. Okay. And right now I need some white and some yellow. So that's the point over here. It's most most of the time you just adjust accordingly, and it's more about solving your own problems, because that, if you know how to adjust the things, if you know how to pose the right questions and give some okay answers, you will get a great result. You don't have to have all of the answers from the beginning, and you don't have to know how to do that specific thing. I have in mind a thing that I want to achieve with this painting, but it is not concrete. It is not evident exactly what I want to do. It is just playing with colors and understanding what colors do and course correcting as I go to make some decisions later. Like, that's why this is a sketch, because it's probably going to look quite different and much more refined in the end. And I'm going to probably do the steps differently, just because that's how paintings work. So I'm seeing the fact that that sky is not really working. It makes the painting too dull, too, it doesn't help the contrast. So in the end, I'm probably going to make some mountains in the background, like a huge cliff, and I'm going to lower the perspective, maybe make some trees over here. Some people are going to get triggered because I did this. I'm going to make some other mountains and things over here so that I lowered the horizon line, so I'm looking basically at the ground, and that will make, I'm going to trigger more people now. So to explain what I'm going to do is basically this. I'm going to have a darker background. It's not going to be night, but I'm going to have a darker background so that the contrast of the tree is much more intense. I know, I ruined it, but that's fine. That's why we sketch things. This was not supposed to have any final result other than understanding. And I think that's another thing that a lot of teachers miss, which is the fact that you need to give the student the space to fail, and you need to build an environment for them to fail. And I usually, when I teach, I tell my students to have one of these, which is a Canvas board, and to try, if they don't feel comfortable with doing something, to try it on the Canvas board and then wipe it with some paper towels, just like this. You can start to see how much I can erase, in case you didn't know. If the acrylic is still wet, you can erase it. You can start to see how much more contrasty it looks. It's much more of a contrasting look, and then you can add some, foliage and trees and things and whatever. So yeah, I think that's a good I've learned what I need to do in order to make the course, and now I'm gonna do the actual course. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.